This is a refresher video for citizen scientists involved in the Illinois RiverWatch program. This video assumes you've already been to a RiverWatch training, but that you might want to go over some of the key sampling procedures again before starting the next monitoring season. In this video, you'll see key parts of conducting the habitat and biological surveys involved in RiverWatch stream monitoring. You'll also find some tips for collecting and recording data, links for downloading RiverWatch materials, and occasionally you'll have a chance to check what you know about sampling. The first thing to remember is that you don't have to remember everything. Your RiverWatch manual and training packet have all the information you'll need to conduct a survey, such as the site identification sheet to record your stream name and location, the loaner monitoring kit location sheet to find out where you can borrow dip nets and everything else you'll need for sampling, data collection sheets for recording what you find in your surveys, and other information you might need after attending a training. All citizen scientists receive a copy of the manual at training, but extra copies of data sheets and other resources are available on NGRAC's website. Before you go out sampling each year, revisit the citizen scientist checklist in your training packet. Make sure that if you're going on private land, you still have landowner permission, and that you've completed the other steps on the checklist. Contact the RiverWatch program coordinator if you have any questions. As you know from attending a training and reading your manual, the habitat survey really starts before sampling. Before you mark off your 200-foot sampling section and choose a random site to sample within it, you'll want to fill out your site identification sheet and the site ID blocks on all your data sheets. You're probably familiar with setting up your site, but remember, the RiverWatch manual provides the exact steps for this process if you ever need a reference. Sketching and noticing changes in your stream site can be fun. Remember, you don't have to be a great artist for this activity. As long as you label what you've drawn and include a north arrow, you've probably included all the necessary data, like types of macroinvertebrate habitat you see, and stream flow, and location of rocks and down limbs. Further directions for completing the site sketch are also referenced in your RiverWatch manual. You've probably noticed that much of your habitat survey data comes from your direct observations, such as noticing weather, water odor and appearance, and observing streamside vegetation. The most complicated part is sometimes recording the data. In the next part of this video, we'll go over 4 tips to help you complete the habitat survey data sheet. See if you can guess the tips before they even appear on the screen. One area on the data sheet is commonly left blank, which doesn't give a full picture of what's happening at the stream site. Can you spot the missing data here? You got it, it's the end time. Although the start time is easy to remember as we're setting up our sites, the end time is sometimes overlooked because we have to come back at the end to fill it out. If you run into this problem, try circling or highlighting the area in the beginning so you remember to come back to it at the end. The next tip is probably something you remember from training. Which temperature data do you want to collect first, water or air? That's right, air temperature data should always be collected first so that you're not getting the temperature of the water evaporating off the thermometer. For the next tip, imagine that you go out into your stream after a rainy season and you see this growing out of the water. Would you record it as a submerged aquatic plant? Unless the plant is growing completely underwater, it's not considered a submerged aquatic plant. Here are a couple of examples of submerged aquatic plants that you might see. Pondweed on the left and milfoil on the right. You've probably seen these in ponds and lakes, and the truth is you probably won't see them at your stream site. Most of the plants you'll see growing in water will be emergent aquatic plants, like cattails that grow out of the water, emerging from it instead of staying under it. Most of the time your answer is going to be no to the question, are there submerged aquatic plants? The final tip is about numbers. Take a look at this data sheet. Can you spot the trouble with numbers here? That's right, it seems to be missing one of the measurements. Usually we'll record data right after collecting it, but all kinds of distractions can happen in the field, so it's best to take a look at your data sheets before leaving the stream site to make sure that every entry has a number by it, even if that number is 0. In the next part of this video, we'll go over the biological survey and discuss a few tips for collecting and recording data. During the habitat survey, you investigated your stream site. You sketched the habitats you noticed, such as riffles, leaf packs, snags, undercut banks, and sediment in the stream. For the biological survey, you'll choose 2 of those habitats to sample from, and hopefully you'll find lots of macroinvertebrates there. Habitat types are listed from most to least diverse on your data sheet. As you know from training, you'll want to choose the most diverse habitats you can find. Sampling procedures are outlined in your manual if you ever need help while you're out in the field. Now let's go over 2 tips for completing the biological survey data sheet. These might be helpful to you as you collect macroinvertebrates from your stream site and prepare to send your data to the RiverWatch field office. See if you can guess the tips before they appear on your screen. These guys are sampling from an undercut bank, but something's a little off here. Can you tell what it is? It may be a little hard to tell on the screen, but this particular undercut bank is not the best spot for sampling. The water just doesn't come up high enough for macros to be living in the undercut. In a good undercut bank, water will be high enough to go into the cut-out portion of the bank. This is where you're going to find macros and other forms of aquatic life that might be hanging out there. The next tip is about how you will store the macro specimen you find. As you know, 90% isopropyl rubbing alcohol, or 70% ethyl alcohol, is what we use to preserve macroinvertebrates. Filling your jar all the way to the top with alcohol, make sure that your specimen won't slosh around and break when you ship them to the RiverWatch field office. But what kind of jar works best? From this lineup, which do you think is the best container for preserving and shipping your macros? If you pick the middle jar, you're right. This one is small enough that your specimen won't move around a lot in shipping, but it also has an airtight lid and doesn't have food residue on it. It's important to sanitize jars so that food particles don't cause your specimen to degrade. For more information on shipping your samples, such as how to safely package your glass jars, visit the NGREC website. You've come to the end of the RiverWatch refresher video. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope it helps you as you go out to sample each year. We really appreciate your dedication to protecting Illinois watersheds. If you want to stay in touch all year, find us on Facebook at Illinois RiverWatch Network.